An often overlooked fact about the current Ebola outbreak is that it's a different strain than we've seen before, a different strain even than broke out this summer in the former Zaire. And that should raise a question. How did it get to Western Africa? If it was transmitted by animals, how did it migrate thousands of miles across the continent of Africa without some kind of an outbreak in between? And not only is it a different strain that spread far more than previous outbreaks, Dr. Francis Boyle points out that U.S. government labs have been in this area. Why are they putting these labs in those countries?
Well, it's very simple in try to circumvent the Biological Weapons Convention and my Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989 that provides for life in prison. We have a BSL-4 in Guinea. We have one at the capital there, one in Liberia, Monrovia, and another one at Kenema in Sierra Leone.
So, was it released accidentally through experiments? In the past, we've had Ebola get out 3 times in lab contaminations. In 2 separate incidences in Russian labs, there were 2 deaths. And we've had 6 separate monkey outbreaks that didn't transfer to humans, but humans were affected. They developed antibodies, but they didn't get sick, meaning that they fought it off with their own immune systems, highlighting how important it is for you to have good immune system health.
The National Institutes of Health mated live Ebola with the virus for the common cold. And it very well might have been this type of vaccine that they were testing out over there at these BSL-4 facilities. We know that the Sierra Leone government shut down Kenema and accusing them of starting the pandemic with shots under the supervision of Tulane.
We just have a report that came out last Friday, basically kind of buried in the Friday news cycle. This is from the New York Times, and we haven't seen very much reporting about this. The White House said they were going to cut funding for risky biological studies. Now, this is them saying that they're not going to do any more weaponizing. What do you make of that?
Well, that's the smoking gun. That's Friday in the New York Times. You see, they de facto admitted that this is exactly what they were doing at those BSL-4 labs in the 3 BSL-4 labs in West Africa.
As we've seen, they evidently didn't focus on containing the disease or even on basic contamination protocols.
Go into an infected Ebola patient's room without covering your head, with only wearing 1 pair of gloves and with your feet exposed. You would do that?
Absolutely. More is not always better. Better is better.
Well, today we got a picture of Dr. Frieden visiting an Ebola ward in Liberia. Look at him there. That's him front and center. He is covered head to toe.
Now, if the repeated lies and hypocrisy of the CDC doesn't make you wonder if the spread of the current Ebola outbreak has been deliberate, then the history of the U.S. government's involvement in bioweapons should. We're always told, of course, that DARPA's work on weaponizing viruses is strictly defensive, and it's for the public safety, of course. Just like the robots that they're creating that run faster than humans, I'm sure will only be used for hurricane relief. And it's not just DARPA. From the very beginning of its creation, the CIA has worked with criminals to develop biological and chemical weapons for the U.S. government. The book, A Terrible Mistake, The Murder of Frank Olson, tells the story of a CIA scientist who worked with biological and chemical weapons at Fort Detrick. His story is closely tied to Operation Paperclip, where Nazi war criminals were granted immunity for what they could bring to the American research programs on biological and chemical warfare. But it's not just Nazis that were brought in. Japanese war criminals were brought in as well. Here's some of the credentials of a Japanese general that we gave immunity to and brought into our biological warfare program. General Ishii's researchers injected tetanus into the heels of prisoners, left naked men outdoors in 40-degree below zero weather until their limbs froze solid as rock, put prisoners in glass rooms and sprayed them with anthrax, cholera, typhoid, plague-infected fleas, other diseases to calculate the minimal lethal dose. Even tied prisoners to a stake, and then exploded germ bombs overhead while soldiers wearing protective gear timed their deaths with stopwatches. Anywhere between 3,000 and 6,000 people. Men like that formed the foundation of the U.S. biological warfare units. Scientists like Dr. Cyril Broderick and Dr. Francis Boyle are asking if this isn't a manufactured epidemic. But the greatest danger may not be Ebola itself, but the big pharma Defense Department cures and vaccines that are being rushed to market.
Normally, it would take years of human trials before a completely new vaccine was approved for use. But such is the urgency that this experimental vaccine is being fast-tracked at an astonishing rate. The vaccine uses a modified chimpanzee common cold virus to carry a single Ebola protein. It cannot trigger either disease, but should prompt the production of antibodies.
Right. What could possibly go wrong? For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm David Knight.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. DNA Force is one of the most expensive formulas to produce. Some of the ingredients in DNA Force are $12,000 a kilogram. We are using the coveted, patented, only American source of PQQ, CoQ10, and more. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.